Hi all, very good evening or good morning. Hope you all are doing great. Thanks a lot for joining this webinar on identity governance and administration on hybrid infrastructure models. Let me introduce two eminent speakers from Saviynt. Uh, Suresh Ramamurthy is an IAM evangelist with over 25 plus years of experience in cybersecurity and IT. So he joined Saviynt over 3 years back as Vice President for Business Development for India and Middle East. In his current role, he is part of the global partner organization and manages the global SI headquartered in India and regional partners in Middle East. Thanks, Suresh, for joining this call. Um, we have Karthik. Karthik is a solution consultant from Saviynt. He has more than 13 years of experience in various IAM solutions, worked on various roles in multiple countries. So Karthik is based in Singapore, and he is closely working with Saviynt partners to support their customers on their identity governance and administration initiatives in the APAC region. So I have with me Sundaramurthy, so who leads the digital identity tower in of cybersecurity practice in GAVS. So he comes with over 15 plus years of experience in identity and access management. And I'll be your moderator for today. This is Kannan Srinivasan. I head the cybersecurity and GAVS, and I come with more than 20 plus years of experience in cybersecurity. Next slide, please. So before we move on, we would like to start with a quick poll. So have you implemented IGA solution in your organization? So we would like to hear from you, like, I mean, if you have implemented the solution in your organization, you can choose yes. I mean, if you are manually, practicing this activities, you can select manual. If you have a tool, like for example, Saviynt, you can mention it as tool-based. Uh, Otherwise, you can just mention it as. You'll have 30 seconds to respond. Another 10 more seconds. Thank you. Okay, that is good. Yeah. So this is expected. So many organizations today, right? They are either, they have not actually implemented IGA, and what Gartner predicts is 50% of the organizations who have implemented IGA, they have some kind of issues or distress in the way they have implemented. Either they feel they overcross the budget or it is not meeting their requirements. So let's discuss in this webinar to see how we can address all these challenges. So let's move on to the next slide. So identity governance and administrations became increasingly important amongst the organization today. So we know about identity and access management, but the terminology IGA means centralized composition of access controls and identity management practices to meet the regulated and industry standards. So IGA should effectively streamline, provisioning of access based on roles designed for your organizations, continuous monitoring of access and entitlement to stay on top of changes, complete visibility of all access and entitlement to make informed decisions. So in short, it is to ensure right people get the right access for the right reason and at the right time. So why it is important for an organization to have an IGA kind of a tool, right? So every organization has some of the following challenges. Just for example, right? Routine changes of resources accessing application. So this happens all the time with the joiners, movers, and levers. Uh, Business changes, like adding new product or like new functionality, any enhancement to the existing application, right? And the infrastructure related changes, like for example, moving to the cloud or upgrading your hardware or creating a new instance in a completely different location. So if there is an inadequate process to keep track of access related changes, it can definitely lead to a compromise, and it can result in a major data breach and end up in paying a large penalty. So a good identity governance and administration should have, should allow to remove access to those who no longer need or no longer they should not be accessing. It should be able to remove the access. In addition, industry is becoming more modern in terms of adapting to cloud and regulatory changes. So it should adapt and to be usable for the SaaS and other platforms. So IGA will help, to effectively manage who has access to what, why do they need access, and what are they doing with that access. So it effectively manages to keep track of these three aspects. So solution, right? If you are considering an IGA solution, you should be able to easily deploy, easily manage, and it should be easily scalable and cater to the large volume of users. Next slide, please. So in this slide, I would like to talk about some of the challenges that any organizations will face without an IGA. So the first and foremost is um, the time taken to effectively provision the access. So we all know access provisioning, right? It's a major challenge for every organization. Somebody has to make a request. It takes more than few days for a new resource or anybody who wants an access to get it provisioned. So today in an agile world, right, with releases happening within a day, you can't expect somebody to wait for days together to get an access. So this is also going to have an impact. Let's say, for example, if you are supporting your customer, so without an access, you will not be able to meet the service levels. So definitely, a timely provisioning of access, it makes a huge difference. The next challenge is the labor-intensive process. So be it password management, user provisioning, or access request. So it's a laborious process without a proper IGA tool in place. In a large organizations, especially this is definitely going to be a bottleneck because uh, this is also tied up with the time taken to provision because it takes huge amount of time without a right tool for the access provisioning team to enable this, and without an automation, right, it takes even more time, and meeting the business challenges, you always provisioning is going to take more time. So next one is on the regulatory compliance. So with more regulations like GDPR, SOX, HIPAA, right, there is always more focus on the access related aspects. So limiting and monitoring access to only those who need the access, as and when they need it, it's extremely crucial. Um, Ensuring access to the sensitive information, especially like say be patient information or financial data, it must be strictly controlled. Otherwise, it can always lead to a major data breach. So next one is from the risk perspective, right? As we all know, if you don't keep track of the access that has been provisioned, it definitely comes with high amount of risks. Um, So especially when it comes to improper access and there is always a huge amount of risk that we need to factor in. The next one is on the monitoring the non-employee identities. So every organization today, right? Like I mean, there are multiple third parties who are accessing their systems and infrastructure. So if you don't have or if you don't have a mechanism to keep track of who is accessing what, then it really becomes a challenge. And many times people who are not supposed to have access, they will continue to be connecting to your network. They'll be able to see what's going on, and they can take out some critical information from your organization. So with industry is also moving towards models like zero trust, right? Uh, so how do we ensure the current solution help meets those kind of the new trends? It's also another major challenge. So uh, with that said, maybe I will hand it over to Sundar to talk more about the hybrid environment. Over to you, Sundar.
Thanks, Kanan. Next slide, please, Amit. Yep. So to start with hybrid IT, so we are seeing here something like hybrid IT is a normal thing. The analytics data of the year 2021 is also confirming the same. So in the slide, we are seeing that the data like 62% of the IT spend utilized in the year 2021 is in the cloud. And 60% of the users were using the public cloud, and 40% of the investment which is made on the cloud is a reduction in the cost. So it is giving around 40% of reduction in the total cost spent. So it is a gain figures which is showing there. This is the overall brief of the hybrid IT which I have given. Before jumping or deep diving into the hybrid IT model, or what is hybrid IT model, or how hybrid IT has evolved, I would like to set the intro notes for the hybrid IT, why it is. Hybrid IT is disrupting multiple processes in an IT organization, which increases the complexity of the organization. So this complexity, which is giving a way to identity governance and administration. So next few minutes, we are going to have a quick discussion on how IGA is going to improvise the hybrid IT model, and how or what are the challenges which are in and around hybrid IT model. So to deep dive into that and to say the evolving of hybrid IT model, I would like to convert, or I would like to express that in the three phases: phase one, phase two, and the evolving phase. Uh, phase one is all about traditional and kind of a historic applications. We don't have any automations or provisioning mechanisms in place. When we wanted to onboard a identity or a new employee to a organization, we had to wait and we have to do a lot of things manually. The employee has to wait to get the accesses to start working. It would be, by the time, it would be around 1 week, so we have to wait for required approvals. So as a process tuning in this phase, which is phase one, there is a uh, kind of a business efficiency which is brought in place. So the efficiency is nothing but automating and putting process in place. So the first phase has evolved or improvised and given results with the kind of operational efficiency. The things which have been achieved to bring all those is like automations and processes to speed up the provisionings. Let's move to phase two. In phase two, as in phase one, like we have automated all those provisionings and the things are in place, what is the next step to uh, take this provisionings and kind of IGA to the next level? Is all about uh, organizations and all the domain specific players were thinking about what is the process or what is the kind of a compliance I'll put in place to ensure everything is in place. That is all about the second phase. Since there is an automated system, let's ensure the compliance is in place. So the second phase is all about improvising the compliance mandates. When I say compliance mandate, it is all about bringing HIPAA, GDPR, or it could be NISC or ISO standards to meet the international standards, to ensure security, to bring in governance and compliance, or to meet the client requirements and client standards. All this compliance mandates has been implemented in a second phase. So it has given a next level of improvisation in the IT enterprise. So phase one has improved a bit with automation and processes. Phase two has improved further with all the compliance mandates in place. When I start about this evolving phase, which is a third phase, all the organizations have started their journey towards digital identity and kind of a cloud transformation and a digital transformation. All this trendy things which has led the corporate players or enterprises to think about the cloud journey. They have placed all their applications in cloud because of operational efficiency. I'm going to reduce my cost, and I wanted to make my deployment simple, or I don't wanted to buy an infrastructure for placing my applications. So all this factored, or all this given a way to place the applications in cloud. So because of that, there is a hybrid model which has come in place. Anita, could you move to next slide, please? Yes. So this is the typical kind of architecture on how hybrid hybrid model of IGA is positioned. So here we could say IGA, which is positioned on a hybrid IT enterprise. Okay. Once the hybrid IGA has evolved, again, that's where we started about things like identity as a service, product as a service, or kind of a software as a service. So in this phase, like the entire hybrid IT has completely evolved. Once the hybrid IT has evolved, the complexity is further increasing in terms of the applications which are provisioned in cloud is started using artificial intelligence or machine learning, bot, internet of things. So this has given lot of complexity to the systems, and the hybrid model is getting more number of threats. So this is the place where we need to further improvise the security. So in first phase, we have brought in operational efficiency. In second phase, it is all about compliance mandate. In this emerging phase, when the trend is going towards hybrid IT, to ensure the security of the systems and applications in the hybrid enterprise, what is that I wanted to look upon, or what is that which I want to position in place to ensure that the security? That's where the concept of identity-centric security has come in place. This identity-centric security, which has given one layer of extra security to the systems, that is because like my enterprise applications or my network is wide. When I wanted to ensure security, identity is my key place. That's where this identity-centric security has brought in place. This identity-centric security has adopted things like Internet of Things and bots, and also it has utilized things like user behavior analysis and user activity behavior analysis. These are all few things which is utilized or adopted by this identity-centric security to ensure the threats which are faced by the hybrid and hybrid models in which the IGA is placed. So now, as we have discussed on the hybrid IGA, now we are in a full-fledged IGA. Let's look at overall challenges which we have on a IGA which is positioned in a hybrid model. The challenges could be like one of the challenges is security. The key thing is security. Now, specifically, I'm discussing at the overall challenges in a hybrid model. It is not about implementation challenges in IGA. So balancing the security based on the usability in the system is one thing. Whenever the network is growing, the target for the hackers could be the growing network to hack so that they could benefit something out of it, which is a direct challenge in a hybrid model. The second thing could be complexity. As we have discussed, when the enterprise is increasing or growing in a hybrid level, the complexities will be always there. It could be something like memory or hard disk, which should not drain or which should not block the systems from its normal day-to-day operations. The other one is compliance and governance. And the other two factors are monitoring and automations. We have covered all these things as part of our hybrid evaluation. So next thing which I would like to discuss is we have had a discussion on the challenges in hybrid model. Next thing could be the key implementation challenges in a hybrid IGA model, or the implementation challenges in a IGA in a hybrid model. I have in this slide, like I have highlighted the key challenges which are faced in the implementation phase. One is security, the other one could be customization, provisioning. The key thing is compatibility between the on-premise and cloud. When we go for a multi-tenant cloud, then what is the challenge which we will face? Compliance and governances, which we have already discussed, and password issues. Multiple user directories is one of the key challenges which we have in a identity and access management base, and multiple admins. When there is a multiple admin, how we are going to handle that situation? The PAM solution is one of this. PAM could be one of the solution for that. Let's discuss a few of this IGA implementation challenges in detail. Anita, could you move to next slide, please? Yep. Under compliance, implementing role-based access control and attribute-based access control in a hybrid model could be a key challenge. When I'm in a dedicated on-premise setup or in a dedicated cloud setup, there are few challenges which could be implemented, but specifically when I'm in a hybrid model where I have apps positioned in both on-premise and cloud model, how I'm going to implement my RBAC solution is a key challenge, which is directly tied to segregation of duties. The same challenge is in and around segregation of duties when I wanted to implement it in a hybrid model. Again, this segregation of duties is sitting on top of RBAC, where this segregation of duties has to be implemented in organizational level as well as in the application level. And also I have to take care of toxic combination of accesses which should not be there in a specific network. So think of a hybrid model. When I wanted to implement segregation of duties covering the toxic combination of accesses, that is the key challenge which is there in a IDAM space. Moving to next thing, auditing and access review implementations. So consider an example of auditing, which is a SOX audit, which is going in place. Like a SOX audit is going to give some findings to me. The data which is given should be in a centralized place. I'm not going to separate my audit findings in terms of, hey, I have a audit finding in on-premise, or I have an audit finding in cloud. So the data of the audit should be in a centralized place where I could take actions. Only then it will be possible for me to take actions for that audits in terms of implementing security or tightening the security or doing some GRC processes for it. Whatever it could be, it should be in a centralized place. That a centralized place in a hybrid IT model where applications are positioned in on-premise and cloud, it is a key challenge. In terms of security, I'm moving from compliance to security. The challenges in security is like encryption. Encryption is one of the key challenges. Consider an example when I have apps both in cloud and on-premise, when I'm transferring the data from on-premise to one of the cloud applications as part of the journey, the data should be encrypted, and the encryption mechanism which is used in the on-premise application as well as the application which is at the receiving end should be using the same mechanism. My applications which could be, or I have purchased my applications from different vendor, the data could be the data could be transferring, but they may not have same encryption mechanisms. That may create some problems. So that is one of the key challenges which I have faced in this journey. And I see a lot of, based on my work experience and discussion with multiple clients, I could see SSO is implemented in multiple places, but not MFA. That is a boom now, but not having MFA in a hybrid model could be a key challenge. This again one of the key challenge which I see. So I would like to highlight that here. And third-party compliance. When it comes to server certificates, all the certificates should be certified by a third-party vendors who are key, like SSL or PKI. Those kind of authorized parties should be certifying that server certificates. That is one more key challenge which I have. Okay.
Sundar, so when it comes to provisioning, right? So we also discussed about integrating of disconnected applications. So you have any points on that?
Integrating disconnected application. Yes, Avanand. Like integrating a disconnected application could be a key challenge, because when we are in a hybrid connector, we may not be able to have a direct handshake with the targets. In that case, like customization is required, and we may have to do the gap assessment of what is the target and how the target is, and we may have to do the full case study of it and understand it and what we have to do. And if we have an IGA solution in place, the IGA should also support that solution. In case if that is not supporting, we have to develop a custom connector working with the product team. So that could be one of the challenge which we have.
Okay. Yeah. And let's also hear from the people, right? Like, I mean, what are the challenges they face? Anita, could you please open up the poll question? So, have you implemented IGA in your organization? If yes, what are the challenges that you currently face? The options are yes, from the security, customization, provisioning, compliance, and you have not implemented IGA at all. So we would like to hear from you, what are the challenges that you currently face in your organization? You have 30 seconds to vote. Okay, thank you. Okay, yeah, as expected. I mean, many of you have not implemented, and those who have implemented, right? Like, I mean, yeah, security is definitely one of the biggest challenge, which is expected. Now, I will hand it over to Suresh to give us an overview of Saviynt, and then I'll request Karthik to give us a demo. So over to you, Suresh.
Hey, thank you. Are we on the slides? I don't see the slides. Hey, thank you. Thank you, Kannan and Sundar. This slide represents a high-level functional capability of Saviynt. What we've done in Saviynt is we have built an intelligent identity warehouse, which is residing as a service from cloud. And as this warehouse is built, what we do is essentially we connect to the applications, the operating system, databases, as well as any kind of workloads in cloud or on-prem, and we bring in all the account information, entitlement information into that warehouse. We also take in the audit logs, activity logs, etc. So with this, we are able to correlate all the information we are collecting and then give you a very good visibility, a 360-degree visibility into who has got access to what is the access secure, and how are people using that access. So with this framework, we have then built in or extended the capability to cover the following 5 solution areas. So the first one is the identity governance and administration. As you know, when you look at identity administration, you're looking at how you can manage the life cycle of a user within an enterprise with respect to the access he or she has got, and how you manage the changes of this access as this person changes his role within the enterprise. And finally, when he leaves the enterprise, you are interested in knowing how you could make sure the given access is completely removed, so that there are no orphan accounts kept there for anybody to take advantage of. From a governance perspective, obviously, you are interested in knowing uh, whether the right kind of access has been given to the users. So you can conduct a periodic access review of your users, and you can also do certifications, as most of the access compliance audits require that you do at least a quarterly review of your access and be compliant. Now, with this capability, once you have built this capability, then you can enhance this capability to manage all the privileged access within your enterprise, be it privileged accounts within your operating system or applications, or the workloads residing on-prem or cloud. And once you've implemented that, you can also look at going and securing your large enterprise apps like ERP or EHR systems. So what Saviynt does very unique here is our connectors are able to go very deep into applications like SAP, wherein we are able to bring in a complete granular visibility into how a user's access is linked to the role within that enterprise apps. And probably we can even go even more deeper in terms of, let us say, if it is SAP, then we can give you visibility into what kind of T codes that user has access to and what kind of authorizations he's got access to. So this is how deep we can go when you look at Saviynt and integrate it with any large enterprise apps like SAP. And then once you have secured your large enterprise apps, then you probably would like to look at how do you secure the access of third-party vendors. It could be contractors, it could be companies with whom you're doing business. And as you know, as you're building a very cohesive ecosystem with your suppliers, with your purchasers, etc., often there is a need to, converge all the access requirements into one platform and manage it and make sure there is no risk pertaining to third-party access. So there also, again, Saviynt brings in a unique capability where we can allow you to create an authoritative store for managing these third-party identities and then managing the complete life cycle of access for those vendors you're bringing in. And lastly, of course, as enterprises are investing in cloud collaborative platforms, again, there is a need to actually secure those cloud collaborative platforms like Office, Dropbox, or Box, etc. Then here also what we are doing is we are able to leverage the API sets exposed by these platforms and give you visibility into what kind of sensitive data the users are keeping and whether they are using it correctly. And we also can bring in controls where we'll make sure that this sensitive data does not leave the enterprise. So this is how you can actually secure your data assets with Saviynt. So with all these capabilities, what we have done is we have made it easy for any customer to implement. So you can start with the IGA capability and slowly expand this capability to cover all the solution sets I talked about. So move on to the next slide. Next slide, please. So with this, we would like to just summarize what Saviynt really delivers. So we are actually delivering a single converged platform. That means you have the ability to manage access either into applications residing in an on-premise environment or in a cloud environment. We are a SaaS-based IGA vendor, and we also can secure the cloud infrastructure. So we are essentially a tool which has been built on cloud, and we also can protect any workloads on cloud from an access perspective. Since this is a SaaS-based tool, we have also made sure that it is very easy to implement our solution, and we have made sure a lot of the hard customizations which you typically do is kind of made available to you in a simple drag and drop functionality or as a simple click functionality. And hopefully you get to see all this when my colleague demonstrates the tool. So from a compliance perspective, again, what we have done is we have built in a very strong analytic framework where you actually can configure any kind of access control which you want to manage and monitor. So from this aspect, what we have done is we have brought in a lot of out-of-box access controls which can easily map into the various compliance requirements which your customer is placed in, be it SOX requirement or PCI compliance requirement, or even when you're managing cloud workloads, if you have to be compliant to a CIS benchmark, all these controls are brought in as an out-of-box simple configuration. And once you configure these analytic controls, you can actually simply deploy them, monitor them on a regular basis to make sure these are in compliant with the actual security policies against which you have benchmarked your enterprise from an access control perspective. And lastly, of course, when you look at any SaaS vendor, the first question which comes is, how secure are the services which you are offering? So in order to address that, what we have done is we have invested in making sure our complete managed platform is highly secure, and we regularly audit this managed platform. And as you see here below, this managed platform from cloud is actually compliant to the various industry certifications which are given today. And we are today, in fact, proud to say we are SOC 2 Type 2 compliant, or SOC 1 Type 2 compliant, or ISO compliant, as well as FedRAMP compliant if your end customer wants to take a solution into, let us say, a US market, or if it's a government entity in the US market, there is an insistence for a FedRAMP requirement. So with this, I would like to move to the next slide. So lastly, when you invest on Saviynt, you get a business-ready platform. And as Sundar and Kannan have talked about the challenges of using an IGA tool in a hybrid environment, what you see here is Saviynt has made this capability or the ability to manage access in this hybrid environment through out-of-box integrations into your mission-critical applications. So as highlighted here, we have actually shown a simple snapshot of key enterprise applications or cloud infrastructure like AWS, Google Cloud, or Azure if you're using, or let's say directory services like Azure AD, or if you're using enterprise apps like Oracle, SAP, Epic, or a SSO vendor like Okta, or a ITSM tool vendor like ServiceNow, CRM like Salesforce. We have connectors out of the box to bring in all the access entitlements into Saviynt and manage your access requirements completely with very less efforts. So with this, I turn it over to my colleague Karthik, who would show you the demo of our tool. Over to you, Karthik.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, Scott. Please proceed.
All right.
Uh,
So far,
could you please share that again, please?
sorry, is there any question?
No, I'm not able to see it now. Could you please share it? Okay.
You're good, Karthik. You can proceed. If you want to show anything on the screen, you have to share it.
Okay. You're not able to see my screen yet. How about
Yes,
now? Can you see my screen?
Yeah,
yeah,
you're good
please
now.
proceed. We are able to see.
Okay. So far, we discussed on, how IJ is going to be in the hybrid environment, because this has become a critical challenge for most of the business, where they did not set up a proper identity management foundation. Without that, they started expanding their infrastructure, and the result of that is that it became a big challenge for customers to manage the user identities and access across their IT ecosystem. In those days, it used to be just the human identities, right? So now we have cloud adoption. Result of that is that there is a silicon identities or machine identities. And as the business is growing so faster, there are a lot of applications, a lot of workloads, so many changes in the business that brings many uh, different types of identities. And not just that, the proliferation of these various types of identities have increased many complexities, many requirements on the compliance, on the regulatory requirements, and also on the governance perspective. And the screen that you're seeing is now basically is the Saviynt platform, right? So this is where we are going to now start our demo or a solution walkthrough on how with Saviynt platform, how we actually address all these challenges in the hybrid environment, where there is a need to manage human identities, need to manage silicon identities, not just in the on-premise network, but also on various cloud platforms, not just one cloud platform, but it could be AWS, and you may also have GCP and Azure, and maybe some other cloud service providers, right? And you may have a lot of SaaS applications. So there is also a need to manage different types of SaaS applications. So from Saviynt, when we actually started building up this platform, we started with IGA, as Suresh highlighted in the presentation. So IGA is where you can have a lot of features related to managing the user identities, access, and it is not just limited to that, but also adds a lot on access governance, right? So lot on access governance, meeting the compliance requirements, meeting the audit requirements. All these are actually part of IGA. So on the screen that you're seeing, we have got a lot of features here. This is all related to IGA, where I can manage my the users and their accounts and their respective access in my organization. And as an admin, I can also manage my own application servers and groups, entitlements, and etc. Since Saviynt is providing a SaaS platform and not just limited to IGA, but also privilege access management, then we also have third-party access governance, the data access governance, application access governance. Basically, it is a converged platform, right? The reason why we converge, because there is a need to converge. If you don't converge, there is going to be a challenge in future where you cannot have a complete visibility, right? You may have some users having access to different platforms. You may not be able to have that visibility, right? So privilege access, if that is managed in completely in the different systems, you need to spend time, you need to spend money, effort in order to get that integration done and then bring that visibility, which may not be that effective as a converged platform. So now with this, I get into a bit more detail on IGA. What we actually do is that, so I'm actually seeing here, or in terms of users, I picked up this one user called Ethan Harris. Let's assume that Ethan Harris is a new user, new employee. He is joining in the organization. So what happens when someone joins? Of course, manual process is all manual. Everyone has got different stories. But in IGA, where customers or organizations where they have IGA, the only term or only process that is expected is automation, right? There is absolutely no manual work. That's not where, that's not, when there is IGA, there shouldn't be any place for manual works. So in our example, let's take this user, Ethan Harris is joining the organization. So when he joins, all these details that you're seeing, first name, last name, organization details related to his jobs, roles, and responsibilities, all these are actually entered into the HR system. So what we do is that we integrate with the HR system. Right now, the details that you're seeing, it is actually coming from Workday, which is a SaaS application. And we integrate with Workday. We bring in all these applications. If you have, your HR systems, it could be on-premise, it could be on the cloud, or you may have, completely a manual process. Then we can even use the CSV file or batch file. We can make use of that to bring in this information. So we want to have one authoritative source from where we can actually bring in this information. And once we have the employee information, we know that Ethan Harris is joining tomorrow, right? That actually means that he should be having all the access ready by tomorrow, right? There shouldn't be any delay. That is most expected when it comes to identity management system in terms of joiner process, right? It's a very basic requirements. So Ethan Harris joins and he needs to have access to at least 10, 15 applications. And tomorrow when he joins in, he logs into the system, he gets the password from the manager, which is generated by IGA. He logs into the system and he sees that he got access to all the applications that he needs to have access to, starting from Active Directory and then Google Workspace, and then we got Azure AD, data access governance on Office 365, then got access to Windows, Linux, and AWS and SAP, right? So these are the access that he is supposed to have as part of this. And all this can be completely automated, right? So that's the whole purpose of IGA. So what we do is that we use the birthright policies, as you can see in the screen. We got this, onboarding policy here. So on this policy, we can just go here and we can define on, based on certain roles and responsibilities, what access should be given, right? So with the manual process, typically there is access matrix maintained, which is completely maintained in the Excel spreadsheet, where you would have all the details entered manually or somewhere in the document. And with IJ in place, you put everything in the rules, transform everything in the rules, and let everything be automated. So what is going to happen is that once we have the birthright policies in place, and that policy will make sure that people join organizations with different roles and responsibilities, and they get access to different applications, different systems on your on-premise network, on your SaaS applications, on your cloud applications, right? Cloud service providers. They may need to have access to different entitlements, different workloads. We can cover all these as part of this, birthright policy. You can have as many policies that you want. All that you need to do is that, for example, if I'm going to look for AWS, so I'm going to add AWS here, and the first thing is to create an account in AWS. And once the account is created, and then if I'm going to add this specific user into, let's say he's going to have access to AWS role, I can go and look for that specific role. And once the role is selected, and then I'm going to get access here, we go and look for a role that has that is matching to his. Okay, let's find that one. Okay, we got one. So let's put this role here, and then we can also put, give access to some EC2 instance access if we need to give access on. Let's see. We give some EC2 instance access where I can actually specify, specifically what privilege I want to assign, right? So once we have all these things, then we can go and look for SAP applications, because he's going to be a SAP consultant. He needs to have access to SAP. I can specify here, and also I can specify he should be having access to SAP role, and I can go here, and it's going to be as just give me a minute. Okay, so we got this here. Okay, let's just assign some role here. So once we have all these configurations, we can just click preview and see that, okay, so these are the users are actually matching to these specific conditions, in the sense they all have same roles and responsibilities, or at least they all need to have access to those applications that are listed here. And that's how it works. So we can have many such policies that will take care of your joiner mover process, right? Now let's go back to the user Ethan Harris, who has got access to all these different systems. What we have done in Saviynt is that we work with all these technology providers, and we have developed our connectors, and it is all done with a deep integration. We can get into it now. So we look for his Active Directory account, and then let's pick up maybe SAP account. Let's pick up AWS account. All right, so what we will do now next is that we go in here, and this is the Active Directory account for this specific user, and we can go into entitlement hierarchy. This is where we get to see that Ethan Harris is part of these Active Directory groups. So typically you don't get to see much any further details other than this, right? So Saviynt is providing a completely fine-grained view, so where we can actually go here, we can expand on what this specific AD group is giving access to, right? So if we actually go and expand here, it's giving access to some virtual machine, giving access to certain resource group, and also giving certain subscriptions. And similarly, we can see here on AWS developer, it's giving access to some AWS role, and that role name is ADFS, some numbers, and then developer. And the specific AWS role has got certain AWS policies, AWS statement. I can expand further here to see that what actually these access are, right? So what actually he's getting access to. So we can get into a completely fine-grained level and bring that visibility to our customers. Because what happens is that when the whole purpose of identity management or IG system is to integrate with every single system in your network, in your environment, it doesn't matter hybrid or just on-premise or SaaS or completely cloud. We can integrate with every single systems, and we can bring in this information, right? We want to make sure that we're able to completely automate the joiner, mover, and leaver process. So if you don't have that visibility, that's where governance is going to suffer. That's where you're going to see challenges with the compliance. That's where you're going to have challenges with your audit requirements because of the lack of visibility, right? So we understand that very well. That's how we design our platform in such a way that we're able to help our customers in such a way that they get the most out of it. Now, this is from the AWS perspective. We can go and take a look at other systems. This is on SAP. So the same user has got access in SAP. We're looking at Ethan Harris, and in SAP, his name is different. It's all it's all can be as per the policies on different systems we can define. And on the entitlement hierarchy, I can see here he has got various entitlements, right? So I can go and expand to specific entitlement. And here I can see that this ZFLP admin is giving access to some T codes and auth objects. I can expand from here, and I can see that it has got actually a lot of transaction codes, right? So each of these is actually giving access to perform certain transactions. And then I can actually expand here and see there are a lot of authorization objects, right? So basically, these authorization objects has got certain controls over these, and I can expand of all these things. I can see that what are the fields, what are the minimum value and maximum values assigned under each of these objects. So that is how we can go to the very deep level in terms of giving access to this. And this is on the AWS perspective. We already saw that. In terms of access, we can get into what is the groups that this user is part of. We can see here and what policy and policy statement its user is getting access to. We can see if there are any other access that this user is getting, right? So all this we have done using out-of-the-box connectors. These are some, at very high level, some quick examples on, one SaaS application, one cloud platform, and one application on-premise. So we can easily edit the rules on joiner, mover, and leaver. Yeah, any questions?
No, but I think this is really great. Maybe we'll also hear from our audience if they have any questions.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, we give it a bit pass here. If there are any questions from audience, let's discuss on your question.
Okay, so the first question is, does it work on customized transactions and role in SAP ecosystem?
Absolutely, it works. So when you see the transaction codes, right, the transaction codes and roles, it is not that just defined on Saviynt platform. So we integrate with your SAP system and we bring in all the.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to the next question. Will Saviynt support unstructured data provisioning?
I need a bit of details on this. What does it actually mean by unstructured data provisioning? Maybe whoever put that question, if you could give more details on that, we can give a better response.
Yeah, I'll get it from the requester, and we'll definitely get back to you on this particular one. Let's move on to the next question, please. Can this be integrated with the identity provider of our customers?
Yeah, we do support SAML and OpenID Connect. You can integrate with identity provider using these standards.
Great. So last question, will it support NetIQ Access Manager?
Yeah, using the standards, if required, we can also make use of REST API.
Okay. So we have a few more questions, but we'll definitely get back to you with the answers, and we'll share it with you over the email. Thank you so much, Suresh, Karthik, and Sundar for joining this wonderful session. And thank you so much for all the participants for joining this session. And if you have any questions, please do reach out to us, and we will definitely get back to you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. See you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.